This is Weekly Woman by Jubilance for PMS. Sonia, it's so nice to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, and where are you calling in from? I love seeing your surfboard in the back of your screen.
You know what? I didn't even catch it. You can see that. Good eye. I am calling from Los Angeles, California.
Wow, perfect. Like you can just like hit the beach right after this.
It's not my surfboard, but yes, my fiance, uses it a lot.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And can you tell us like what is your favorite part about your city that you're in?
Ooh, good question. I moved out here from New York City. So I've experienced the two. They're both two amazing cities, but very different.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I love about LA is just that you can get to the ocean and you can get to the mountains in like 20 minutes either way. And that's something that to me is so important and special, like being able to just get to nature. You might have to deal with some traffic and some crowds, but every city has its struggles, but I love that aspect. And of course the weather, can't beat it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, that like 70 degrees all year round. We're burning up here in New York City right now.
You know what I heard, I have some family and friends still there, and it sounds like it's been brutal. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just stay there. Don't leave. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then what have you been up to in the pandemic times?
Sure. So I am a personal trainer, and then I have an online program, and the online program was definitely inspired by the pandemic. I started it out of a necessity because simply, we couldn't go into gyms and see clients and people in person. So I started that during the pandemic, and it's been amazing because it allows me to connect with people all over the world. Places that I never thought I would reach, like people in Norway and Croatia, and like it's crazy. And now that I have that going, it's kind of given me another, avenue and platform to do, my business from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how you've created this online platform called the Sonia Series? Can you talk about like what exactly is it? Because there's like personal training, there's coaching. You've kind of like integrated wellness as well as like how you're sleeping into it as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my approach is holistic. Which that word is kind of buzzy, and I think people use it all the time, but basically it breaks down to there's no one piece of the puzzle that's going to fix everything. Everything's connected. So yes, you need to work out. Yes, you need to strength train, but just doing that isn't going to fix everything and get you in shape. We have to look at your mental health. Like, how do you feel about yourself? Are you dealing with a lot of anxiety or stress? What are your relationships like? What is your sleep like? What does your diet look like? All these things really contribute to our ability to, not only lose weight, which I know is some people's goal, but to mainly just feel good in our bodies and to be as healthy as we can. So the Sonia Series is a way for me to get my classes out to people. So with personal training, I really focus on traditional strength training, with the caveat that I come from a ballet background, and ballet is all about connecting your mind to what your body's doing. That's why ballerinas look the way they do, because you have to know exactly where your muscle is when every part of the body, how to fire it immediately, right? It's such a beautiful art form, but there's so much that's going on from the mind to the body constantly. So when you apply that to any other form of movement, whether it's Pilates, strength training, bar classes, yoga, it's the same thing. If you're not able to activate your muscles properly or activate that mind-body connection, you're not going to get as much as you could be out of your workout. So I really focus on form and then education in my classes. So teaching people like how to really, really activate and get into those muscles. And then with that said, part of my membership, so people that are on my signature series membership, they also get personal coaching sessions with me. And that's where we go into those details of, okay, so you're doing the workouts, you're doing the challenge, you're doing the program, but now let's also look at what's your sleep like? What's your diet like? Where do you live? Are you happy there? What's your stress like? That's a long-winded answer, but let me know if you have any other questions.
No, I think that's really interesting because I think that plays into like what my company does with PMS, looking at like the emotional aspect behind it. Because it's not only like what's happening during your cycle at that specific moment, but like really what's the stress and anxiety levels that are happening to you throughout the month that then triggers PMS to be even worse.
Right.
So I think that's really fascinating that you can look at it from this holistic standpoint and really give all of your clients from all over the world the resources to negotiate that and feel better.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. No, it's been, it's very rewarding. Obviously at the end of the day, any job that you do is going to be a job, right? There's times where it's stressful and challenging, but I can say that what I do is extremely rewarding, which is really nice.
Wow, that's amazing. And can you talk about you mentioned briefly that you came from a ballet background. Can you talk about moving from this, like, I mean, you're doing holistic, and so like you kind of went from this circle of like being a part of your parents' fitness centers growing up to coming back to it. Can you talk about your journey coming back to starting Sonia Series?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll disclose my age. I don't care. I'm 31. And it's so funny because my sister is in her early 20s and she's in that place right now where she's like, I don't know what I want to do. And I'm like, you don't have to know what you want to do, because when I was your age, I was doing something totally different. And a lot of people have this story. So yeah, I started, when I was in grade school and high school growing up, I was taking ballet classes 5 times a week. I was performing, traveling, all that stuff. And I really, really loved ballet. I really got into it, and doing some modern dance as well. And my parents owned fitness centers. So I'm originally from Vermont. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, hence the nature aspect. I definitely crave a lot of nature.
Mm.
So I grew up kind of like in the gym. The ballet classes I took, there was actually a studio that was like attached to the gym where the classes were held. So I was there all the time. It was just, for me, I'm very lucky and fortunate that I grew up with movement and fitness just being like a lifestyle, rather than being like something you have to do, or you have to go on a diet, or you have to, no, it was just, this is part of our lifestyle, right? We move every day because that's what we do, and we eat healthy because that's what we do, and it makes us feel good. So yeah, I grew up doing that. And then when I went to college, I was like, okay, I need to be practical, right? And I need to study something that's going to make me money and provide me a good career. And the ballet kind of took a back seat because that's a very, very difficult career path. And I think I had decided from a young age that I probably wouldn't do that professionally for my whole life. So studied business, went to college, but still taking classes on the side. And I did take some exercise science courses as well. So I always kind of had that going on in the background, but I majored in marketing, business. And then I went to work for Condé Nast in New York City, which is a big, glamorous, shiny, as Devil Wears Prada, all of that stuff. It was all of that and more. And it was a really fun, exciting time. But I think after 3 years, I realized like, I don't feel good. My energy is low. I'm not sleeping well. I'm not taking care of myself as well as I can be. I love that city, but I was getting really burnt out, and I did not feel passionate about what I was doing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I think a lot of people have that experience. And it's always that thing of like, well, how uncomfortable do you need to get before it, forces you to make a change? So yeah, I think I got uncomfortable, and I was always curious as to what else was out there. I think curiosity is also very important. So I came out to LA to visit a friend, and I was like, huh, this feels like vacation all year round. I could get used to this.
Yeah.
I took the leap, and I moved out here, and I was doing freelance social media marketing to make some money. And it was actually my boyfriend who said to me one day, you are so passionate about health and fitness, and you know so much about it, you should make it a career. And I kind of looked at him like, I don't even know where to begin. And like, can I even make money doing that? Also, we live in a city that's very saturated in that, right? There's a lot of people trying to do health and wellness in LA, which is great, but it felt overwhelming at the time. But I have to give him a little bit of credit because he kind of gave me that nudge to follow my passion. And I did, and it was really scary in the beginning. And, you start out with one client, but you just keep educating yourself, you keep learning more and getting more experience. And then it, has grown into what it is.
Wow, that's incredible. What a great story about like finding your passion and being able to to help others with it too, which I think is so great about your Sonia series. Um, and can you talk a little bit about like being, you mentioned it, it's a LA is a city that's very much focused on health and wellness, about eating well. How did you go ahead and like break down those barriers? How did you differentiate yourself as a female entrepreneur?
Good question. It was not easy in the beginning. I will say that. And I think still sometimes people think my life is just like, my friends will always ask me, what is a day like in your life? Right. Everyone is preconceived. They're like, are you just on your computer, like talking to people? Are you just on Instagram? Like, what do you do? So yeah, it sometimes appears that it's not a lot of work, but it wasn't easy. It is a lot of work. So in the beginning, I chose to go out on my own, which made it even more challenging. Like I could have chosen to attach myself to a brand that was already
Mm-hmm.
established, right? And then had them feed me clients and do that. But I did not want to do that. So I was pretty adamant about that. And I just started to put myself out there, like connecting with people, telling people what I was doing. I got, obviously certified in personal training. I also got
Mm-hmm.
certified in integrative nutrition, and just meeting people through different networks. And then you get, one client, and then it's word of mouth. And honestly, that continues to this day to be just as important as it was when I was first starting. You
Mm-hmm.
always have to be pushing yourself to grow and connect with more people. So yeah, it definitely makes you get out of your comfort zone. But it's so important, yeah, to building a business.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah, just pushing yourself out there and trying something completely new. I applaud you for going after that. That's amazing, Sonia.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. And I think, the imposter syndrome is something that is definitely a thing that a lot of people deal with. And I'm very honored. I've had a few girls that are coming up in the fitness industry, like call me and ask for some advice. And it's always that thing of like, well, I don't know if when can I call myself a personal trainer, or when can I call
Mm.
myself a wellness expert? And I'm like, you can call yourself that now. Like, you've decided, you're taking the courses, you have the education, like you're learning. And then it just becomes about getting more experience with the hands-on work, and like actually in the field and working with people and talking about what you do. And the more you do it, the better it gets.
Great. Yeah, yeah. It's that like 10,000 hours mentality of just like putting yourself out there and getting getting all that experience behind you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. And Sonia, something that we always ask on this podcast is what is your definition of womanhood?
What is your definition of womanhood? Okay. Let me think about that for a second. I mean, so I work with mostly females, and I do have some male clients, and it's great. And I love working with them too. It gives me a different perspective. But I love working with female clients because our bodies are so special. And I know that we want to curse them half of the time. It causes a lot of pain and confusion and frustration. But I mean, let's be real, like our bodies create human life. That's an incredible thing that we are able to do. And I think that as women, because we're able to do that, we are inherently so much more in touch with our bodies and with our
Mhm.
emotions, and with like shifts in relationships with others or with ourselves to our world. I just think that we're so much more in touch. So I think womanhood is having, we have this internal, like, I think wisdom built in us. And a lot of
Mm.
times we are made to question that just because of society or different things that, pressures that we feel. And I think that it's so important to go back, like, go within. It's like a lot of times we know the answer. We intuitively, we know what we should be doing. It's just about blocking out all that outside noise and trying to really listen to our bodies.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's lovely how you put like we are thing like we're actually like giving life to something and to listening to our intuition. I think that's so lovely. Thank you, Sonia.
Yeah. And with it was a little vague. I know how I described that, but in terms of when I work with my clients, it's, I am there guiding them and giving them tips on what they can do. But I will say a lot of times the light bulb goes off in their head, like, oh yeah, no, you're right. That does make sense. I did stop doing this thing, or I probably
Mhm.
should be eating more of that. Or yeah, I mean, I think intuitively we should need to give ourselves a lot more credit.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's lovely. And I'm sure like there's so much that you learn consequently too from your clients, just the back and forth and the education nature that you've been talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one other thing that we ask is if you could share a piece of advice with your young self, what would it be?
Okay. So kind of what I touched on before with
Okay.
my sister, but yeah, it's, we're ever evolving and changing people, and you don't have to have it all figured out at once, nor should you. And I still remind myself that to this day. So it's a constant practice that I try to keep with myself. But yeah, you want to be ever evolving and expanding and changing. But I think when we put so much pressure on ourselves to have all the answers right away, we actually block ourselves from being able
Mhm.
to open other doors or discover new things, or, oh, maybe actually I want to take this path, right? Maybe the path I thought I need to be on is not right for me. So I think it's like being able to sit in the discomfort of not really knowing where you're going or having things not feel like they're quite right.
Yeah, that is definitely advice I need to take because it's like what is my 5 year plan? What is the 10-year plan? But I
Yeah.
think everything does work best when you just kind of allow the road to take you where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I think we need to remember to do that. I mean, it's, of course, it's important to have daily practices and have a bit of a focus and goals and stuff, but we also need to remember not to get so tunnel visioned. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I need to take that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sonia, it was so lovely to get to talk to you today. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, you're so welcome. I thank you for having me. And, I discovered Jubilance, and I think that it's so great that there are companies like you guys that are trying to help women, like holistically, it goes back to that saying, find ways to like naturally deal with some of the uncomfortable things that we deal with as being women and our hormones and all that stuff. Because I think there's so much knowledge there's so much power in knowledge. And
Mhm.
I think when it comes to women's bodies, there's so much confusion about what we should be eating and how we should be working out and what we should be doing, right? To look good, to have our hormones balanced, to all this different stuff. And so I always tell my clients, like, I just want to give you guys as much knowledge as I can so that you have the power to feel your best, and look your best. And I think
Mhm.
you guys are doing that as well. And I really love that.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm so excited for you to try it and see what you think. You'll
Yeah,
have
I'm
to keep us in
gonna
the loop.
report back.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
please.
absolutely will.